We are live. What is going on, Night fans? We will be getting going here in just a second. Let's see if we can. I just want to double check everything. And make sure we have everything all set to go. And yes, we are live right now. All right, so without further ado, here we go. All right, Night fans, what's happening? Jeff, Sharon, Jeremy, Brener here with you for night shift number 2. Number 2 probably describes a lot of ways we feel right now after UCF loses to Pitt in Pittsburgh, 35-34 on a late touchdown pass. We knew this day would come. I'm here to tell you, I'm here to be the optimist around here, and tell you that that it's going to be okay. As I've found myself doing. Jeremy Brener, so you're the youngin in the house, and I need to teach you about the old ways of UCF. You know, when we were
Wait.
We would have called this day. We would have called this back in my day. We would call this a moral victory. Something that you youngins aren't familiar with, I'm sure.
We went 6-7 my freshman year. I'm very aware of losses like
In
that.
what conference was that?
The American Conference. I'm not that young.
Try going 6-6, 5-6 rather, as a Division I independent.
Well, I mean, it could be worse. It could be worse.
So we got a lot. We got a lot to talk about. I got a lot of questions for us. Luke Saris and I've got word. Luke Saris and Eric Lopez may be joining us later. We're going to see. So it's only, like I said, it's only our second time doing this. We got such positive feedback from the first time that we're going to try it again. So as you can see right now, we are live on YouTube. If you want to send us your questions, I can actually get the questions right here on my dashboard, and we'll try and answer them as best we can. I know we have a bunch of questions, but make sure, first of all, that you holler at us at blackandgoldbanneret.com. We are SB Nation's home for UCF sports. Actually, Eric's just let me know he can't do it, but that's okay. Hopefully, we'll have Luke. We are SB Nation's home for UCF sports on the SB Nation network. You can also follow us on Twitter. UCF_Banneret is our Twitter feed, and on Facebook, facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret. So, all right, Jeremy, let's just dive right in right now. Where did it all go wrong today for UCF against Pitt, in your opinion?
2 words.
Okay.
It rhymes with Smosh Maple. Josh Heupel.
You're pinning this on Josh Heupel.
Josh Heupel, exactly. I think that this is really a no-brainer, to be honest.
All right.
Josh Heupel coached so well last week. There's no way that the team that went out last week and this week, like it literally was like a 180 in the total wrong direction. And it's not like anyone played differently. It's not like there were different players in the schemes. The only thing that was different was probably, I just think they weren't prepared for this game. And I think what happened was in the beginning, Pitt came out, threw them some looks that, they didn't expect to see. And then it was kind of damage control from there. And they were able to withstand that for, right up until a minute left in the game. And then it all started to fall apart again. And I think that, honestly, I blame the coach. I think the coaching was horrendous today. I think that, just some of the play calls that were made, very questionable. The decision to go for it on 4th down, up 3, and then the decision to go, up 6 to kick a field goal up 3. That just the timing of things just wasn't right. And then the play calls on those, like there was a 4th down late third, early fourth quarter. I forget where it was exactly in the game, but you know exactly what I'm talking about, Jeff. It just like it was a 4th and 2, absolutely no need to go for it, but they go for it, and it's just like it's the wrong play call. And look, I think that I appreciate being aggressive, but there's a difference between being aggressive and being aggressive with a purpose. And I feel like today there was a lot of aggression with not a whole lot of purpose. And that, to me, is ultimately why UCF sits on the losing side in this one.
I see where you're going with that one, and we're going to pull up the highlights here in a second. I don't think it's fair to pin it all on Josh Heupel, because even though I think he gets some of the lion's share of the blame. But if you're going to, I think you do go back to that. If you're going to give him some of the blame, you got to give him some of the credit for getting UCF back into the game. I think that when I think about how UCF was going to lose this year, this was the plot of how they would lose, okay? They get punched in the mouth early by a team that basically does to them what they do to everybody else, okay? Punch them in the mouth early, run the ball well, convert third downs, and just keep the pressure on them, all right? Make them come back from a deficit. I do think that where Heupel did go wrong, and where I think you're right, was on that 4th and 2 play call in the fourth quarter where you're up 3, 31-28, and Heupel decides to go for it on 4th and 2, and it's a read option call, and Dylan Gabriel hands it to I believe it was Greg McCrae, and he just runs into the line and stop for no gain. In a similar situation later, yes, you're right. Later on in the fourth quarter, they decided to kick it there and went up 34-28. Obviously, you can Monday morning quarterback it all the time, but if UCF gets that 3 points instead of going for it and not getting it, then UCF's up 9 when they kick that field goal. The game's basically over. I get that, and I think Josh Heupel knows that. I think that what you're saying is there's a fine line between aggression and being over aggressive. Okay, and Josh Heupel, we've seen this going back to the Memphis game last year when he went for that 4th and 1 late in the third, deep in his own territory with the game on the line, basically. Heupel has made his aggression his calling card. Okay, and I get that. It's hard for me, as somebody who lived through the George O'Leary era, to complain about being aggressive. But I think in that case, when you're up, the way the game was working, the way the game was going, yes, you do have to at some point kind of say, okay, I need to do the smart thing here in the fourth quarter. I'm going to take my 3 points, go up 6. And even I have wrestled with it, in the minutes and hours since the game. But I think in retrospect, it was the incorrect call. And that being said, UCF still had a chance to stop Pitt with 4 minutes to go, and the defense didn't stop him. And Pitt converted a bunch of third downs in the first half. They converted the third downs when they needed to in the second half, and that ended up, I think, being and let's give some credit to Pitt too. The game-winning call it was a 4th down. Was an amazing call, and they executed it despite the fact that UCF sniffed it out. And we'll show it to you in a second, but I think it was, I don't want to pin all the blame on UCF. I think that we got to give some credit to Pitt here. I think, like Luke Sarah said in his instant reacts column, that it was it was an over aggressive. It was one of those things, but it was but maybe really good. Maybe Pitt's really good.
Yeah, and I think that Narduzzi got his team prepared for the game, similar to how Heupel got his team prepared for Stanford last week way better than David Shaw prepared Stanford for UCF. My dilemma here, you said Josh Heupel brought us back in the game. Why were we down 21-0 in the first place? Why were we in that large of a hole? And the way I see it is this, like, it's a matter of momentum and it's a matter of keeping your team motivated, because when I look back in this game, the one play that's going to stick out to me is the blocked punt. And
yeah, that was a killer.
That was a real killer. Like that is a total effort play. That is a total effort play. And Pittsburgh was clearly gave a whole lot more effort than UCF did. And I get UCF down 14, having to punt it back to Pittsburgh. Like that was the moment in my head that said, we're in trouble. It wasn't when we were down 14. It wasn't when, it wasn't even later in the game when they were driving down 6. It was that moment when I was like, oh, this game's not going the way it should. And
sorry, go ahead.
The very end. And the way it's just, it's an attitude thing. And, and I think that, Pittsburgh, props to them. I think that they came out a lot more prepared than UCF did today. And I think that's the one play in this game that you wish you had back. And yes, maybe you do punt it to Pittsburgh and they score on that drive, but also like that was when the defense was starting to pick it up. Like that was, I think they had like a 3-and-out after they were down 14-0, and you're like, okay, the defense has a little bit of life. And then UCF gets the ball back. They go 3-and-out probably, and then they punt it, and it goes into the end zone for 6 for Pittsburgh. So I think, that's the one play in my head that is standing out the most, and it's the one play that I think Josh Heupel wants back the most. I think it's the one play that the special teams are going to want back the most, and I think it's the one play I want back the most.
Yeah. I got the stats pulled up. I'm going to pull up the I'm going to pull up that 4th and 2 run here real quick. I want to see if we can see. All right, let's pull it up here. I actually pull it and I'm going to run it in slow motion. This is the 4th and 2 that UCF missed on. And I want you to pay close attention to what Dillon Gabriel does here. As you see, I think this is Jake Hescock at fullback. I might be wrong. I'm sorry. But let's look at this and watch the decision that Dillon makes on this read option. And we're going to play it in slow-mo. As he hands off right here at the mesh point, notice that UCF hasn't gotten any penetration right here. And this is at the moment when, well, actually it's a little bit past that, where Dillon has to make that play. But notice here, I want you to watch the left side of UCF's line. Okay. As this fires out, Greg has the ball. The interior of the line gets beat. Okay. But there's a hole right here. And if Dillon Gabriel keeps this ball on 4th and 2, he's got an easy first down, and he might have scored, because look what happened. Mm-hmm. The downfield blocks.
Wide open.
It's wide open. He waltzes into the end zone. Okay. And I heard a couple people on Twitter earlier saying, what is Dillon doing not running the ball? And they were calling back to what Pat Narduzzi said, I guess, in passing about Mackenzie Milton, which, I don't think that's here or there. That was kind of a throwaway comment. I don't think he intended any ill will toward Mackenzie Milton on that. But like at that moment, and I just want to go back and see what Dillon is looking at. That could have been a touchdown if Dillon kept it, and he didn't. He handed it off to McCray, and McCray, as you see here, gets stopped at the line of scrimmage for no gain, and UCF turns the ball over. Now they would get the ball back, of course, as we know, but that's 3
points. That's possibly 7 points, and that's all you need.
It's at least 3. Yeah, it's at least 3 if you. Well, you don't know. I mean, maybe Dylan Barnes misses the field goal. We don't know.
Maybe.
But
from a chip shot range, I think Barnes can make that.
And this decision to me, that was the key moment in the game. I want to go to the game-winning touchdown too. And just and let's give some credit to how Pitt executed this play here. So it's again, it's note the situation. It's 4th down and 3 in the 4th quarter. Okay, they can get a first down at the 1. All right, so you're kind of playing 2 lines here if you're UCF.
You're lined up at the 1.
So everyone's lined up at the goal line. They snap it, and I want you to watch what Pickett does. And he came back after he was hurt in this game. Let's give that kid some credit. We'll go over his stats in a second. But watch what Pickett does, and the design of this play is really interesting. It's not the traditional Philly special that we saw from the Super Bowl, okay? What he does is he slips underneath. He blocks here. Here's the toss, and he slips under the linebacker. He slips under Nate Evans. Usually you see him fire out on this play. You'll see him fire out this way.
The Philly special
straight out that way.
Went to the sideline.
Yeah, on the Philly special, Foles just ran like a He ran like a wheel route almost. In this case, and this is why this play is actually so well designed, and we got to give Pitt some credit. Mark Whipple's their offensive coordinator. Let's give him some credit. He slips inside the backer and the DB and the strong safety, and he's open. Okay, at this minute, he's open. I think this is Eric Mitchell over here. He's reading the play. He sees the play, and then watch this throw. Perfect throw. Okay? You can't execute it better than that. And let's give Pitt some credit for executing that play the way that they did. So the final stats for the game, and you look at the numbers, the numbers don't lie. I mean, 30 first downs to 20. This is the big one to me right here. 34 carries, 85 yards rushing for UCF. Not going to do it. Dylan Gabriel was 25 of 42. He threw 2 picks, both of them early. He came up with big throws when we needed them, but at the end it just wasn't enough. Pitt ran 88 plays. That's a lot of plays for the opponent to be running. And yeah, let's look. I want to pull up the individual stats too here. Gabriel 25 of 42 for 338, 2 and 2. He was sacked 6 times. Not good. I mean, you got it. The offensive line did not give him very much time. It's pretty amazing that he threw for 338 considering.
I mean, a lot of those were on 30, 40-yard passes, but they added up.
Right.
Yeah.
Cody Pickett, or Kenny, not Cody Pickett. He went to Washington. Kenny Pickett was 25 of 47 for 224 and the touchdown plus the touchdown catch. I thought it was really something that Pitt's backup was Nick. His name's Nick Patty. Same name. Same exact name as the former UCF backup quarterback. No UCF player rushed for over 100 yards. Adrian Killens had 46. Greg McCrae had 40. Otis Anderson at 37, although Otis did have that amazing punt return, which is
I wish that the one regret from this game, Jeff, that I have is Adrian Killens needed to be used more. I don't think he had very many bad runs today. He had the touchdown run too.
He only carried it. Well, he had 8 carries, 54 yards, but 36 of it was on that one carry. So really, he had 1 carry for 36. And then another 7 for 18.
But if he's the change,
another 7 for 10. Yeah, another 7 for 10 yards.
If he's the change of pace guy, let him change the pace. And I feel like that the running backs were underutilized today. I just think that, and I get that they were down 21, but when you had a lead, when you had a multiple score lead, they weren't being utilized either enough. And I think that was part of it too. And I get that UCF wants to be this, no matter whether they're down 20 or up 20, they still want to keep, the same pace throughout. But when you were on the road and you knew that you were on the ropes, killing a little bit of time would not have hurt at all. And I think that was part of why things went the way that things went in the fourth quarters, because there wasn't the play calling. I just don't think was there. And I feel like the running backs were underutilized in the fourth quarter.
I'm going to disagree with you on that, and I'll tell you why. if you take out the 6 Dylan Gabriel sacks for negative 36 yards, UCF backs ran the ball 28 times for for 90. I'm doing quick math in my head. 96 yards.
96 yards.
28 carries for 96 yards. They threw the ball. They attempted to throw the ball 48 times. So 28 to 48 run pass ratio. Bear in mind they were down 21-0. Okay, so I think that they utilized their running backs. I just think that Pitt made a great. They executed their game plan very well in stopping the run, and forcing. They did to us what we would have done to them in the same situation: stuff the run, force the freshman quarterback to make plays. Guess what? He made some plays.
He did,
but it wasn't. In the end, it wasn't enough. He had the opportunity to make the play on that 4th and 2, and he didn't. And that's something that he's gonna have to learn. Receiving wise, Gabriel Davis was just phenomenal again. By the way, 10 catches, 151, and 2 touchdowns, and that was with and a lot of that happened with the DB for Pitt. What was his name? Jason Pinnock, who was really talented. He got hurt. He was shutting down Gabe for much of the first half.
It felt like there was a player down every other play for Pitt, honestly.
But those were legit injuries, and Pinnock actually hurt himself twice in the game. And then he finally had to leave. It was when after Pinnock got hurt, that's when Dylan Gabriel, to his credit, started throwing the ball
targeting Gabe more. Yep.
Yeah. Almost got a touchdown before the half that would have made it a 7-point game instead of an 11-point game, which I think was key. And Gabe finishing with 10 for 151 and 2, I think an amazing performance for him. So as we look at the drive chart, I just wanted to bring this up on UCF side. All right. Here's what they did in the first half. Punt, interception, punt, interception, punt, punt. All right. TD, field goal, TD, TD, TD. All right, and this is the punt return. Then 3 and out, turnover on downs after you drive 63 yards, field goal, and then the last possession where Gabriel took 2 sacks, which you just absolutely can't do with no timeouts. And I tweeted earlier, you live by the freshman quarterback and you die by the freshman quarterback. We haven't seen, it's the kind of play from quarterback that we haven't seen since Mackenzie Milton's freshman year. That's how spoiled we've been. Dylan Gabriel really did remind me of what Mackenzie Milton looked like his freshman year. It's like you could see, can clearly see the talent. It's there, and also it's just that he missed on he missed some key decisions that mean the difference between winning and losing in a game like this.
And I think that. To Dylan Gabriel's defense, and I want to bring up that 4th and 2 again. This is a quarterback in his 3rd collegiate start, and it's his first true road game. It's his first true road test, and he played all of his high school career on the island of Hawaii. Then you bring him here. First start against FAU when UCF filled up more than half the stadium or had more than half of the fans in the stands. This was a true road test for Dylan Gabriel, and I think that showed early on and it showed late. And that's, as you said, Jeff, you live by the freshman QB and you die by the freshman QB. But I also think that when you encounter that situation, you need to be mindful of that. And I don't think that Heupel was as mindful of that today as he should have been.
Eric Lopez is joining us via phone. Eric, you can hear us, and go ahead and give us a check just to make sure you're on board.
I'm hearing you good. Do you hear me?
Good. Yes, we hear you loud and clear. Welcome aboard. So Eric Lopez is here with us, joining us from the kitchen. I
was just finishing eating crow. So since I did not think this would actually happen, I thought this would be an easy game for UCF, and Was clearly not. I just finished eating crow, so that's why I'm by the kitchen.
Well. Anyway, I don't know how crow tastes, but we were just going over. We broke down a couple of the plays early. We broke down the 4th and 2, which I thought was the key play, where Josh Heupel decided to go for it. Dylan Gabriel decided to hand off to Greg McCrae rather than keep the ball on the option, and UCF gets stuffed. You go for the field goal there. UCF ends up, it's retrospect. We don't know how the rest of the game would have played out, but probably goes up by 9 with the field goal later. If Dylan Gabriel holds on to that football, he probably scores, actually, when we look back at it. So your perspective, Eric, what was the key to this game? What happened?
Line of scrimmage. Let's just start with that. Offensive line got beat up. 6 sacks given up. And I think that hurt Gabriel. Jeremy, you were talking about Gabriel and the performance. Well, this was the first time Dylan Gabriel was facing pressure in his face. And as a freshman on the road, that's tough. And I think that caused some turnovers early. That caused them falling behind early. And they dug themselves a hole. And they were getting outplayed on the line of scrimmage in the first half of the game. And then even when I thought UCF had control, looked like they were about to put the game away. They were up 2 scores. People forget that. Finally, you're like, okay, now you get some bad penalties in that drive that gets Pittsburgh back in the game with the touchdown, where they scored the 4th touchdown. I thought that was a turning point because I thought UCF had Pittsburgh on the ropes at that time. And the lack of discipline by the defense, not only in that drive, which kind of set up Pittsburgh's touchdown to get them back within 3, but in the final drive with 4 minutes, 4th and 5, jumping off sides, giving them an automatic first down.
Yeah, that was a big one.
While I understand people criticizing Heupel on the 4th down call, in his defense, I actually, at the time, live, all right, because I know it's easy to second guess and rip a call after the result, right? That's what we like to do. Live, I'm thinking, yeah, run the ball or try to get the first down. If you don't, you pin Pittsburgh back. And by the way, Pittsburgh punted the ball. UCF eventually, you can't assume that UCF would have gotten the other field goal after the fact, right? Because the game could be changed differently.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to calculate that out. You're right.
Now, and I thought, Jeff, you did by the way, you're Chris Collinsworth better watch out. Your telestrator there was pretty impressive. I'm not going to – but you made a hell of a point because my first thought was, boy, was that the right call? Because they hadn't had success, and Jeremy, you brought it up. They didn't really use Killings or Anderson outside as much. They kind of try to keep it more inside. But you made a great point. For all we know, that's probably one where Gabriel has to do the read, right? Either you keep it or you hand it off, and he decided to read the ball. So I don't know if you can even question the call that maybe it was just at the end of the day, Dylan Gabriel obviously made the wrong read. Plus, the offensive line obviously didn't get the block. And look, we've been praising this offensive line as maybe the best offensive line since 2013. Some people think it was the best offensive line in the program's history. So I don't blame them for going for it there because if they score a touchdown there, I think game over. And even going back to the next drive when they had a chance and didn't and had to settle for the field goal. That's what hurts is you didn't put the ball in to go back up 2 scores to put them away. You allowed Pitt to hang on, and then Pitt made that drive and amazing call.
That one though, Eric, that was 4th and 7. And
is that what it was?
The one to go up 6 where they kicked the field goal, that was 4th and 7. And I wonder if the play where they go for it on 4th and 2, if it was 4th and 3 or 4th and 4, if they go for it or not. And I think that's also part of it.
Sure.
Yes, of course.
But
again, obviously it's one of those if it works, it's a good play. If it doesn't work, it's a terrible play. And it's a terrible play because it didn't work.
I want to play the play one more time. I want to play the play one more time that we're talking about here, and you take a look at this, Eric, and see what because obviously it happens so fast and we don't see it, but I was breaking it down a little bit earlier, and I apologize if you already saw this, but I can't get over it when I actually see it the second time. So this is the 4th and 2 at the 14 and a half yard line. All right. It's an option read out of the gun. And watch the left side of the line. The blocking breaks down on the right and middle. All right. But watch the left side. At the point where Dylan makes his read, which is right here, he's got one-on-ones out here. Okay. When he gives it to McCray, look at the left side now. Number 73, I forget who that is straight away. Jeremy, do you remember who that is?
I know.
Oh, God, I feel like such a dope. Yeah. But left tackle has his man around the corner. Look at this hole open up. Right there. Okay? If Dylan keeps this ball, receivers blocking here, this guy's out of the play. It's a touchdown. He walks into the end zone. Instead, he hands it off to McCray. Parker Boudreaux got beat, and that was the end of that. And that was the game. If the UCF scores a touchdown there, it's 38-28 with 8.5 to go. And the complexion of the game is totally different.
But he's a freshman, so you don't know if again, that's going to happen. I mean, there's probably many a times when you run this type of offense that quarterbacks do the wrong read, but nobody knows because the play worked anyway, right? Like if Parker, if the block is made and he gets the first down, we're not breaking this down how you missed the side on the left, right? The bottom line, and Jeremy brought this up earlier when I was listening. First half, Pittsburgh wanted this game more. Pittsburgh was ready to play. UCF won. And you know what we got to give credit for? Lee Corso, who, by God, even at his age, do not question this guy's football knowledge. For those that didn't see it, on College Game Day, he said UCF would win, but it would be tight. This would be a tough game for UCF because he didn't think they would come out with the emotion they did for Stanford. He thought Pitt would be ready, and UCF wasn't. He thought it was going to be a real tough game and a tight game. And, boy, he was right because Pitt came ready to play. They had control in the line of scrimmage early, and you dug yourself a hole. And when you dig yourselves holes, it's hard to get all the way back. And I thought Jeremy brought that up earlier, and I think that's more fair. But, again, you had a 6-point lead, 4 minutes to go. Your defense didn't make the stop. At the end of the day, you didn't make the stop. You got the stop in the Peach Bowl in 2017. You've gotten stops the last couple of years. You didn't get the stop today. We can criticize calls all you want, but the bottom line is 4 minutes to go in the game. You're up 6. You got to make a stop. UCF didn't. And give Pitt credit. It took a heck of a call, 4th and 3. It's simple for people to say, well, how can you not be ready for that? It's funny. Somebody on Twitter was asking me that. And I'm like, well, how can they fall for that? I'm like, because it's a trick play. That's why you run trick plays. It's to trick teams.
Tweet of the year from you, by the way. I wanted to say it's a trick play. It's used to trick the other team, and UCF got tricked.
And by the way, you did a heck of you analyzed that play. It wasn't like they were tricked that bad. That was not bad defense.
Right. No, it was actually incredible play design when you actually look back and see it. The way that Pickett slipped under the DB was, I think, a masterstroke, because normally we're used to them running the wheel route. He slipped under the DB, and it was actually a great throw that got him open.
I wonder what happens on that play, though, if Nate Evans sticks with Pickett. And maybe it's, the quarterback on that play runs for a touchdown because he's out one-on-one.
Right. That was Matthews, the receiver. Like, if Nate Evans – let's go to that play because I want to pull it up here one more time. And we'll run it in quarter speed just so that we see here. So there were 2 guys that went with the ball. All right. You'll see Nate's here. And I think it's Richie Grant. I'm not 100% sure. I have to see.
Yeah.
But here's Derek Mitchell.
The guy that won the ball was 11.
Or it might have been this guy.
Yeah.
As you watch Pickett roll out or roll through, he throws a block here. He chips on Nate. Nate's going for the outside to try and make the tackle if the guy decides to run. I think the guy who got caught out of position is this guy right here.
Jordan Hayes, 11.
Okay. Hayes, 11. Because there are 2 guys out there on the receiver. Okay. At this second, Pickett's open. Eric Mitchell's trying to catch up to him, but watch this throw. He gets it past both these guys and puts it low and away where only Pickett can throw it.
Nick Patty's backup quarterback job might be in jeopardy now.
Yeah.
Well, by the way,
let's give Pitt credit on it.
By the way, not only was it a good throw, but the timing, right? If he waits an extra second, maybe the ball gets knocked away, right?
Yeah.
Like the timing was good.
Split second later, Eric Mitchell's there.
It wasn't like he was completely wide open. Oh my God, they got fooled completely. Just give him credit. You know, I know it's not the popular thing to do. We want to throw people under the buses. Give him credit. That's a great call. It's a great design.
Yeah.
They got it on a 4th and 3 because you know what happens here? If the ball is overthrown, people be ripping him. How can you call that on a 4th and 3 with the game on the line, right? So I mean, that's we can't have it both ways. So I'm just going to give him credit for that. But I think if you're UCF, defensively, 4 minutes to go, you had a chance to get off the field. You didn't. The 4th and 5 when you jumped off sides, that's the one that you got to sting. And Jeremy, you brought it up. You give up a touchdown on a punt block. I mean, tough. And now, granted, Otis Anderson returned the punt, man. But
I think we can say this. I think we can say that Pittsburgh executed their game plan perfectly today. They executed their and guess what happened? They barely won. They won by 1 point. They had to play a perfect game just to barely win. UCF game plan, exactly, and at home. UCF's game plan, far from perfect. You give the credit where the credit is due. Pittsburgh, you played one heck of a game, and you deserve to win today. They were the better football team today. That is for certain. But the thing is, during these last 3 seasons, UCF has found themselves in multiple scenarios where they weren't the better team, and they ended up winning. Bring up Memphis last year for an example. We'll bring up the first AAC championship game against Memphis. That's I would argue that, and there are so many different games in this 3 seasons that UCF probably should have lost, but hey, they got lucky. So that to me is part of why it's easy to blame UCF, because I think that UCF UCF, all they needed was 10 minutes today because they scored their 31 points when they went up 31 unanswered points. That was within a 10 to 12 minute span. That was a 10 to 12 minute span where UCF was absolutely dominant, absolutely perfect, and they stole the game right back. But the thing is, you have a 10-point lead in the second half. You cannot let that go. And
I don't disagree.
And I don't disagree. You look weird on that 4th and 2 play. The one thing about that 4th and 2 play that I want to bring up, and it's the last thing I want to bring up about that play because that was a bad play and I don't want to look at it again. But why on that play? So like when Greg McCray takes the ball, there are 9 guys in that box, or 8 or 9 guys in the box. Why not spread out the offense? Give people more reasons to spread out their defense so that you have a little more wiggle room for Dylan Gabriel to make a run, for Greg McCray to make a run. If you want to put Adrian Killens in, to me, that was the main issue of that. You had, Pittsburgh was bringing the house. They were bringing everybody. They knew they were going to bring everyone. And you still decide to go, yes, Dylan had that hole. The left side of the line was open, but also that's part of it. Dylan Gabriel is a freshman quarterback in his 3rd career start, and you can't expect him to make the absolute right decision on every play. I think what Dylan has proven today, and I think what he's proven so far in his 3 starts, is that he has all the tangibles. He has all the mechanics. He has all the tools that he needs to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But his in-game decisions and his in-game awareness, that's something that comes with time. And it's something that we saw with McKenzie. It's, his first year made some pretty poor decisions at quarterback. But with time, he eliminated those decisions. And
it took a season. It took a whole season. Yeah.
But also when you are Josh Heupel, because I started the night shift, and I said Josh Heupel was the reason why this team lost. Josh Heupel did not put his team in a position to win that football game. The football team almost took it anyway, but I think those small decisions is why UCF ends up on the L.
Well, other than we're going to focus on the 4th and 2 and a play here, play there. You fell behind 21-0 early, and you put yourself. And again, even with that, you came all the way back, had a 2-score lead, and you committed a couple of defensive penalties that aided a Pittsburgh touchdown to get them back in the game.
That is huge too, and that's something that we haven't really talked about.
We have not discussed that, and I think because if they make the stop there on Pittsburgh, that game is over, and they didn't. They kind of helped them with some penalties on the defensive side, and that's the frustrating thing. If you're the coaching staff and the player, that's what's frustrating. Is you kind of, had some inflicted wounds there that aided Pittsburgh there to get them back, because UCF had complete control at that point and then lost it back when Pitt scored. So we can focus on a play call here, play call there, but it shouldn't have even come to that if UCF was more disciplined and not make some of the penalties that they did in that, not only in the last drive of the game, I've talked about the offsides, but on the touchdown that Pittsburgh got that pulled them within 3. If they make a stop there, we're not having this conversation. That's the thing. And I will say this. This is the thing that's got to be disappointing to the staff and the players. They've talked a lot about the line of scrimmage. That's what got them beat in the Fiesta Bowl against LSU. They've been working on it. The offensive line's been great, and they got beat up today. They got beat up on both sides of the ball, and I think they didn't help Gabriel. I think the offensive line would be the first to tell you, we didn't help Dylan Gabriel today.
I wanted to get to some questions from the audience real quick. Michael Rakowski actually asked that very question. What happened to the defensive and especially the offensive lines? They got totally dominated. Yeah, they did.
Let's give credit, Jeff. Let's give credit to Brian Murph, who knows where he is tonight in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He did bring this up on the podcast Wednesday night, or was it Thursday? I don't remember when it comes out. All these days are blurry. Just check it out.
It comes out Thursday. We record Wednesday night.
Thank you. He did mention that Pittsburgh had a good pass rush. Despite being 2 guys short, they had a good pass rush, which was something to be concerned about, and we kind of saw that with Pittsburgh. So I got to give Murph credit for that. He did kind of mention that as a possible issue in the football game, but it's a valid question. I don't know what happened to the offensive line otherwise, that I'm still stunned, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how many hours since the last play. I still am stunned.
I don't know how that happened. Tony Rizzuti, I'm sorry we didn't get to your question earlier. I didn't see it because I was messing around with other stuff. But Tony asked, said he felt UCF had positive yardage outside the hash marks, but continued to try and stay between the tackles, despite Pitt stacking the box. No adjustment to try and spread out the Panther defense. I think, Jeremy, that's what you were talking about, especially on the fourth down.
Jeremy mentioned that.
If you look at Adrian Killen's touchdown, that's outside of the numbers. Outside the numbers, yeah. And that worked for you. So if it works, why are you trying to fix it? Why are you trying to do something different? And that to me is, and ultimately that's how Killens went off for his 36-yard run. It's how he scored on this play right here that Jeff has pulled up. And that's me. Look at that play. The offense is spread out across the field.
Gabe Davis down here. Marlon Williams down here.
Yeah.
Let's look at this pre-snap. I just want to see it pre-snap. That's the fumble that happened right before that. That really helped UCF get back in the game right when it happened.
Nick Gowan had a really good game today. Nick
Gowan had a very good game today. Yeah. So this is a similar formation actually to the play on the 4th and 2. They went 3 wideouts, 2 backs, including the sort of H-back guy right here. I think this is Hescock. They ran to the right here to the single side instead of toward the double side. Remember on the 4th and 2 later in the game, they ran to the double side. Mm-hmm. So they didn't quite, but they are spread out. You're outside the numbers here. You're outside the numbers here.
4th and 2, but
yeah. And McCray went inside on this play. On this play, they run Killens to the outside. And Hescock comes around the corner. First of all, great seal at right tackle. Killens has got to get around this guy. You know he's going to because he's Adrian Killens and he's faster than a speeding bullet. Hescock with a really good block out here. And Adrian just waltzes in. That's it. But it was a run to the outside, which I know that, we've been always talking about, ever since a couple years ago. Why don't we see AK moving, running outside a little bit more? Because that seems to be where you can get him in open space. Why run him between the tackles? I get that. There must be some reason that they're not. And Tony, thanks for the questions. But it's just one of those things that. But
let me ask you this though. This
is lost to history, basically.
But here's the thing, guys. It's easy to say this. Okay, why did we do this more outside inside? Was anybody questioning this last week when we were blowing out Stanford and nobody was saying, "Hey, boy, why aren't we running more outside?" They were running through Stanford inside. Now I understand it wasn't working as much today, but I think I'm trying to think. They're probably thinking that their offensive line can make those adjustments and block them inside. So easy to say that after the fact, but it's a valid
I think
point.
Part of that, though, Eric, is that
Yeah.
last week against Stanford, you scored on your first 4 drives.
Absolutely.
And this week, you didn't. You didn't score on any of the first 4 drives. I believe it was first 5 drives that went scoreless. But that and to me, like, that's the thing is my dad always says if you want different results, you can't do the same thing. And if you want to do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. And they kept on doing the same thing. You're going to get the same results. If you change it up a little bit, maybe you'll get a different result. Maybe you won't, but at least you're going to try and possibly get a different result.
I agree,
quick,
but I would say this.
Go ahead, Eric.
Let me just say this real quick. That's true. Get off to a better start.
Yeah.
If you get off to, you know what I mean? I mean, let's not dismiss that. I know we came all the way. You can't constantly fall behind this amount of margin. And they came back against Memphis twice about that, but you can't expect to do that every time, and it works out because not everything is going to bounce your way. So, but I don't disagree with what you're saying, Jeremy. I understand where you're coming from completely.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to reset for those of you who are just joining us. This is Night Shift, the evening of UCF's first regular season loss in 26 games. Was it 25, 26 games?
27.
It was a Black Friday in Tampa against South Florida in 2016.
Lost count.
I was there.
The last time
you had the tweet. You had the tweet earlier, Jeremy.
Barack Obama was president.
That's right. Last time UCF lost a regular season game was in the Obama administration.
That'll make you feel like it's been a long time.
I am Jeff Sharon. Below me are Jeremy Brener and Eric Lopez here on Night Shift. You can follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com, where we cover all of UCF sports. You can also follow us on Twitter at UCF_Banneret, Facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret. We are live on YouTube right now. Send us your questions. I think we got a few more. Okay. We're going to get to these in a little bit. We're going to get to the questions. Tyler Pennington, Hidden Hawaiian, whoever you are. And Eric Edwards, thank you for the compliments as we're going through the replays. I wanted to let's look at some of the good stuff that happened.
Yeah, we need some good news.
To me, I thought that this game was almost totally in hand with Otis Anderson's kick return, the punt return, and let's go ahead and watch this again.
I want to see this.
I got it in half speed here.
Beautiful.
And
he's been going on for longer.
First of all, the coverage got outkicked. Look at how far up the field everybody is. And Otis, one thing he has is great vision. And you can see it here. He gets to the outside, clean block up there, points out the block up the field, just runs under the kicker, which I think was an amazing play, breaks that tackle at the 50. This is one of the most spectacular kick returns I've ever seen by a UCF player. Gets a little help from Richie Grant. By the way, Richie Grant playing on special teams, and takes it all the way. Otis really showed me something on this one, and as a special teamer, I just want to see more of that. I thought it was a remarkable play.
We haven't had one of those in a while, right? I mean, we haven't had one
since the
US
time since we had a punt return.
Yeah.
We haven't had a kick return in a while. I can't remember the last time we had a punt return for a touchdown. It's been a long time. I'll have to go back in the archives and look at it. But but that was to me the key play for UCF. And at that point, I'm thinking, all right, here we go. We're going to start rolling now. And 31-21, man. At that point, it was Katie bar the door. Gabe Davis. We talked about how good Gabe Davis was. Here's that play by Trey Nixon just before that. And Gabe, this is with 7:20 to go in the third quarter. And Trey I thought had a pretty good game. But watch this throw by Dylan here from the 28 on the free play. And Gabe just beats Pinnock, and that ball's right on the money. You can't ask for a better throw than that. And Gabe, after Pinnock got hurt, Gabe just took over because he knew the guy covering him was on a bad wheel. So let's get to some other questions from the viewers here. Tyler Pennington, they have to give the quarterback the option to run when it's there. They're not. I think it was an incomplete question, but we'll be there right there. Hidden Hawaiian, I wanted them to put Wimbush in to throw off Pitt. I think he played one play.
One thing.
I thought
it was a minus.
I thought we were one one more bad possession away from seeing Daryl Mack, I thought. That fumble flipped the game.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't happen and UCF doesn't score to get back within 21-7, I bet we see Daryl Mack. Thank you, Eric Edwards, for saying it was Mike Hughes who had the last punt return. That's correct. I think that's it. That was in 2017. I can't remember the game.
1 year,
the USF game.
Yeah. It was that was a kickoff.
Oh, your punt return. That
was good. Punt return.
Yeah, but he's right. Mike Hughes did return a punt during that year. That makes sense. I mean,
he did. I forget if it was. I think it was. Was it Austin P? He might have had it against them.
Maybe.
It might have been
Austin P last year.
No, year before.
No, that was 2 years ago.
Remember, that was the Hurricane game.
All the wins just keep getting muddied in my head.
Okay. The punt return was SMU, says Michael White. So thank you, Michael, for that update. All right. Here's the part. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about just what the national narrative is going to be. I heard a lot of people out there calling what the national press that UCF was getting this week rat poison. That UCF was reading a little bit too much of their press clippings heading into this game. Do you guys buy that?
Possibly. I think that is what the national narrative is going to be. Yes. Whether I think that actually happened is a different question. No, I think this is the national narrative is, UCF isn't who they thought they were. They bit off a little more they could chew. And, they're just
got all cocky after beating up on Stanford, and then you go on the road, and
and that's unfortunate because you never want your team to be pinned like that. But that's the narrative. Yeah, you guys are gonna have to shrink in a little bit with that 3 shot.
Yeah, we're moving in.
I'm right in the middle.
I dove in on the 3 shot. I was hoping we'd have Luke, and then we'd have a 4 shot, and it would work out great. But we're running the 3 shot. So.
Is Luke okay? Is he gonna be all right? Do we know?
Word is he was drowning his sorrow somewhere in Pittsburgh, probably at Permanente Brothers.
I'm sure he's not the only one.
It's true. It's very true.
I don't know if I buy that so much. I mean, sure, some players watch the media, but the thing is, athletes are great at compartmentalization. I don't think that they're reading their own press clippings and getting all cocky. I mean, getting all cocky about it, right? I mean, they knew it's not like UCF suddenly found out that they were good. So I don't buy that part. What I do buy is the national narrative is now going to change from like, oh wow, UCF might have a shot at the playoff. Which, oh by the way, Eric, you and I both agree that UCF never had a shot at the playoff because they would find some way to get somebody else into those top 4 spots. They didn't have a shot.
I don't think that they were.
Even if they went undefeated, I don't think they were going to get in.
I agree with you on that, Jeff.
I also think Eric, we need to not care. We don't need to care what anybody else thinks. Like this team, we got to worry about just getting better. I know that's very coaching cliche, but I think there's been too much chatter about we should be higher ranked. You should be higher ranked than Florida. It's September, and it drives me nuts when we do this. Like we're only in September. Let's play games. Worry about what you got to do moving forward. Then you can worry about chapping about the national narrative and all that stuff. I just to me, there's too much chatter about what does this mean? Should they be ranked? Why aren't they getting respect and all this? Just worry about what you can control. And that's on the field. I do think that one of the narratives, unfortunately, you're going to hear is this is why UCF or other teams will not get into a playoff because when you play back-to-back quote-unquote Power 5 teams, it's not easy to win those games back-to-back. And now there's like, you see, that's why you can't run the gauntlet in the SEC, Big Ten, et cetera. And that's why you are not going to jump a team with a 1-loss SEC or Big Ten because it's hard to win in those leagues on a weekly basis. You may not agree with that, but that will be the narrative that will be out there is the fact that
they're going to look at Pitt's 1-2 record and say, you guys lost to a 1-2 team. Granted, those 2 losses, they won't tell you that both those losses came to ranked teams currently.
Yeah, but I mean, Vegas had them as a 12.5-point favorite. That's not a media thing. Vegas, who probably is the smarter people, they have no emotional ties. They want to make money, right? Well, they put UCF as a double-digit favorite. So you can't say that Pitt's a lot better than we. No. Everybody had them as a favorite. Pittsburgh had only scored 44 points this year going into this game.
Yeah. And they scored 35.
As Brian Murphy likes to say. That's why you play the game, though. That's what sports, right? So whatever the narrative, who cares? Let's just focus. This team's got to get better. And I think that's clear from today. We've got to get better. A lot of games. You got UConn. Take out some frustration on UConn, execute, and you got moved. Then you got in conference play. Because here's the thing, right? We could talk about what does this mean for the New Year's Bowl and all that. If you don't win your conference, and that's all my point is, if you don't win your conference, it doesn't matter where you're ranked. It doesn't matter who you're ranked above or behind. It doesn't matter what the national narrative is, because you don't win your league. You don't put yourself in a good position. So we got to start with that. And that's always been my argument when we get into these silly arguments about where should we be ranked, what's the national narrative? It doesn't matter. You got to win late games and win your league. Start with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. And people forget this all the time, that the G5 bowl spot goes to the highest ranked conference champion out of the G5. So if you don't win your conference, it doesn't matter where you're ranked. You're not going.
It is.
So there's a couple other things I wanted to pull up. Let's just do a quick recap of this if I can. I'll just pull up the scoreboard from around the American. Indiana just slaughtered slaughtered UConn 38-3. And again, I want to repeat, Indiana did that.
Probably the right team to bring in right now after this game, probably.
Yes,
Indiana, probably.
I agree. SMU. Wow. Southern Methodist, they beat TCU 41-38.
Shane Buechele, former Texas quarterback. That American Conference Western Division, man,
the West
top to bottom.
This year, man. It's really stacked. Temple lost to Buffalo for the second straight year.
That's your Owls there, Jeffrey.
Up in Buffalo. I don't know, man. It's the Bulls. The Bulls are still the Bulls are causing noise out in the MAC. 38-22 is the final on that one. Tulsa knocked off Wyoming 24-21.
They're an improved team. That's not going to be an easy game Friday night going into Tulsa. Tricky games in this league, man, in that Western Division. Boy, wow. And
then ECU had to scuffle with William and Mary a little bit there. Next week we have Thursday game on ESPN with Navy and Memphis.
Good
Temple
game.
is home for Georgia Tech in the Jeff Collins Bowl. And then conference play starts over here with USF and SMU. Cincinnati's got Marshall. ECU's got Old Dominion. Did you guys see the final of the Old Dominion Virginia game? I didn't see it.
Old Dominion was up 10-0.
Yeah. UCF UConn on ESPN2 and Houston and North Texas on CBS. I'll go ahead and check some of the other scores, obviously, going on right now. Texas and Oklahoma State are in a shootout. Notre Dame is losing to Georgia 23-10. Colorado is beating Arizona State. UCLA's up on Washington State. Clemson did what they were supposed to do. Alabama did what they were supposed to do. LSU with 66 points today.
Joe Burrow has been
on Vandy.
Joey Connors ended his life.
Joe Burrow, man.
He's risen. He's a new man.
Joey Connors knocked some sense into Joe Burrow because he has been insane. Wisconsin over Michigan. Eric, what'd I tell you? Jim Harbaugh is one step closer to getting fired.
Stop it.
Andrew Luck's don't grow on trees, buddy.
No, but you know what they do? Offensive linemen in Madison do. They're really good. How about we give credit to them?
Jonathan Taylor looks incredible too.
Yeah. Virginia did come back to beat Old Dominion 28-17 in that ball game. They were down 17-7 at the half. Let's see what else. Anything interesting? Wait, we talked about Boise. They're 4-0. Okay, here's what I want. I know, Eric, you're going to be like, why are we bothering? All right, we are bothering here because we need to talk about it. Boise is 4-0. They beat Air Force 30-19 last night. Here's Boise's upcoming schedule. They're at UNLV, home for Hawaii. They don't have to go to Hawaii. They're at BYU, at San Jose, home for Wyoming, home for New Mexico, at Utah State, which I think is a very losable game in Logan.
That's a big. That's Yeah, that's two of the better teams in the league.
Yeah. And at Colorado State, I can see as many as 2 losses in there, including at BYU.
On the road.
Yeah. In Provo. And UNLV is not going to be easy either next week for them. So I know people are like, oh my God, Boise. It's no guarantee that the Mountain West champ is, even if UCF wins out, there's no guarantee that the Mountain West champ is going to be undefeated at all. I don't think so.
The one thing that changed though today was now instead of UCF being in control of their own destiny, now I believe Boise State is in control of their own destiny. If they win out, Boise State is definitely going to be the Group of 5 bowl team, and UCF is right behind though. And if Boise State slips up, UCF can go right back into the driver's seat. But right now, UCF got out of the driver's seat today, and Boise State stepped in.
Meanwhile, there's a team in Memphis that might say, "Yo, we're undefeated too here in the America." Just saying.
At least UCF though will have a chance
in that. But you just say that they're in the West.
We hope, right? That's true. Which I think that's going to be the problem there. Let me just bring up this point though. You brought up you. I don't know if you did this on purpose, Jeff, or not. You mentioned 2 losses. Are you saying that UCF might need? Let's go hypothetical here. I'll entertain you tonight since it's a tough night for everybody. I'll entertain this thought.
Okay.
If UCF takes care of business, wins out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Boise needs to lose twice or once? And that's going to be, and that's an interesting. Obviously, twice. I agree.
I think it's if it's twice, they're out anyway.
Yes.
I think UCF can get in over Boise with 1 if they both have 1 loss. I think it's going to depend on what the loss is.
And that's assuming Boise wins the Men Mountain West, by the way.
Right. I think the later that it is in the season that loss occurs. Well, I don't know how that's going. I don't know how that's going to play.
Not with the committee.
BYU is a 2-loss team right now.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh is an AC. It's a Power 5 loss.
Yeah, but BYU. Well, this is the thing, right? This is where it's got to play out. What do we get from Pitt the rest of the way? Does this win for Pitt turn their season around and maybe be a 7-5, 8-4 team? Maybe win the Coastal again? Who knows? Or are they a 5-7 team? We don't know the answer to that, and I think that's why it's hard to tell.
Well.
Right, because now Boise State probably would argue, well, we won a road game at an ACC place, you guys didn't. So how are they going to value that? How does Florida State do the rest of it? They won today. How does BYU beat USC? So is BYU a bad loss or not a bad loss? There's so many questions still. If it becomes a 1-loss versus 1-loss debate, it could go any direction, really.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a lot of games that we're just gonna have to keep an eye on with Boise out there. Let's look at UCF
and other teams. Let's not eliminate other teams. I don't have the list in front of me. Who are the other Who are the teams that are not undefeated in the Mountain West?
So happens that I might.
Well, thank you, because that's how things happen. Remember, we had
5 pounds.
Yeah, because we had a Western Michigan snuck in 2016 because they went undefeated in the MAC. So it doesn't have to be just Boise. It could be anybody. Because I do agree with this, whether we like it or not. I do think if there's an undefeated champion from a Group of 5 champion, regardless of the conference, they will get the benefit of the doubt over a 1-loss American Conference champion like UCF.
And UCF could still be an undefeated in the conference at least.
Yeah. In the West, Navy, Tulane has 1 loss, but Navy, SMU, and Memphis all are undefeated at the moment. Let's see here. I'm just scrolling it. Conference USA. Excuse me. UAB's at 3-0. Boy, wouldn't that be a story, huh?
Yeah, that would be.
The independents don't have to worry about. The MAC, everyone's got at least 1 loss. Toledo's got 1. Eastern Michigan has 1. Everyone else has 2. Bad year for the MAC this year. All right, Mountain West. Here we go. Here's our props to Andy Seeley out west. Boise's at number 20 and 4-0. San Diego State's at 3-0. We'll come back to that in a second. I just want to check the Sun Belt. Appalachian State.
Appalachian beat North Carolina today.
Beat Carolina today. Let's see. All right, let's pull up just to do our due diligence here. I want to pull up SDSU and Appalachian. So San Diego State.
I know San Diego State beat UCLA at UCLA.
Yeah. Although that, in retrospect, that probably doesn't look all that impressive. They're playing Utah State at home tonight on CBS Sports. They're at Colorado State. That's a tough game. Home for Nevada, home for Fresno, at Hawaii. That's never easy. And then home for BYU to close out the season. So that might be a really tough one for them there. BYU might end up steamrolling all these Western teams and causing trouble. App State
right now on
Utah State's up 10-3. Okay, there you go. App State, their toughest games coming up. They're at the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana on a Wednesday
I see a South Carolina game there in November.
South Carolina in November. Don't forget they got to go to Georgia State. Georgia State had that big win earlier this year. South Alabama, they got a couple more games that they're gonna have to shuffle through here. So I think the path is still there. I think the path is still there for UCF. And Hidden Hawaiian did ask us, what do we think of UCF making the New Year's Six bowl game? Yeah, I still think they do.
But can we agree though that again, this team's got to clean up some things and improve on some areas. Otherwise, this is going to be an irrelevant conversation because if they don't improve, if they don't get better, there will be a team in the league that I think will knock them off. Like if you're Luke Fickell tonight, you're feeling better about your chances in 2 weeks, aren't you? If you're Luke Fickell?
Definitely. And I'm pulling down that film and I'm looking at what Pitt did and I'm going to try and do the same exact thing. I'm going to do what UCF did to Baylor, which is just steal that playbook. Well, they didn't steal the playbook, but what they did is they looked at the film, they dialed up all their plays, and they just ran them. And that's how UCF beat Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl. And that's how, if I'm Luke Fickell, that's how I beat UCF. Also, let's not forget the Houston game and the Tulane game.
Absolutely.
Okay? I think we really got to be careful of Tulane. That game is a trap if I've ever seen it. I watched that game on Thursday night. That is a good football team at Tulane. Fun game to watch. But
they've got a little magic thing going over there, you know?
They believe, man. There's something about that team. They got the magic pixie dust on their shoulders, man. There's something about Tulane that just scares me a little bit.
And you mentioned Houston. They got De'Aaron King, who still might be the best quarterback in the league. So again, I know we like to get ahead. We like to get ahead and do all these things. No, I was just gonna say we could talk about what if this and if this team loses. They gotta take care of business, what they can control moving forward. And I know it's cliche, but I'm telling you, and I think this coaching staff and the players know this. They gotta get better in certain areas if they want to get to where they want to get to the rest of the way. I think that's the biggest takeaway from today. There are things to work on and get better big time.
So, all right, let's move. Let's spin this forward a little bit. All right, and I want to look at the AP Top 25. I'm going to pull it out here in a second.
I don't think we're going to be ahead of Penn State. Spoiler.
All right, well, here's UCF at 15. Oregon, Texas A&M, Iowa, Washington State, Boise. My question to both of you, Jeremy, I'll start with you. Is UCF – where does UCF go? Where does UCF drop to? And are they ahead of Boise? Are they still ahead of Boise State?
They're not ahead of Boise State. I don't think there'd be any – I think the chances of us being ranked when it comes out in the next couple of days, it's 50-50.
I'm not gonna go that far.
You think UCF's gonna fall? 11 spots?
I do. I think a lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, you started off really. You started down 21-0." I just think, and I mean, yes, they moved up 2 spots next week. I think there's gonna be a 2 in front of their ranking, 2-0 to somewhere between.
So UCF drops into the 20s.
Yeah, I think 5-6 spots sounds about right. It's unfortunate, but also, I mean, like, you have to keep in the account Texas A&M lost, so they'll drop. I don't expect UCF to be below Texas A&M, so I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22. That's what I'm just gonna say.
Elo?
Well, you're the master telestrator. I'd like to see the rest of the rankings. Now, Oregon's going to jump them. Oregon beat Stanford tonight.
They did. They won.
Iowa will jump UCF. If Washington State wins tonight, they will jump them. Boise State will jump UCF. So, Jeremy, you may have to keep track of that. That's 3 teams. I could see the A&M thing go either way. I could see the A&M thing go either way. I think Virginia could definitely jump UCF because they actually beat Pitt at
Virginia
Pitt.
beat Pitt. Cal had a good true road win against.
Cal should be ranked higher. By the way, Cal should be ranked ahead of Washington, who they beat.
They walked into Ole Miss and kicked the tar out of Ole Miss.
Beat them.
I think Cal and Arizona State will be ranked higher than UCF.
I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to say Oregon for sure, Iowa for sure, Washington State for sure, Boise State for sure, and maybe even Virginia. So I'm going to say 2021.
Okay, that's about where I would say 21 probably.
Yeah,
I think Boise will jump maybe one spot. And then it's going to be a horse race. It's going to be a horse race between UCF and Boise State the rest of the way to see who gets that spot. All right.
Or if Appalachian State keeps winning, they will jump eventually.
App State they got a lot of ground to make up because here they are in the receiving votes category.
Yeah, but but again, we're focusing on this doesn't matter. The committee is what matters. And if the committee sees an undefeated Appalachian State whenever they come out in October, they're willing to jump them over whereas the rank. See, people have this idea, well, because the AP says so, the committee will follow suit. We've seen this up close when they didn't rank Cincinnati, when Cincinnati was ranked, et cetera, et cetera. So I could see if Appalachian State with a win over North Carolina, and has a big run, they could get crack the top 25 of the playoff committee before even the AP does. So, okay. I mean, this is just speculative. But I agree with Jeremy. I think UCF 2021 range, and they'll definitely be behind Boise State, if not this week, soon.
I think also something to keep in mind is I want to see how many votes Pittsburgh gets, if they get any at all. A top 15 win is impressive, and it will definitely – that is going to be the gauge for how – that is another gauge for how the voters see UCF. How impressive do they view this Pittsburgh win against UCF? And but the reason why I think that it's going to be a little lower than 21 is only because there's going to be a lot of people that don't include UCF in the top 25 because of just their view on group of 5 teams.
Maybe they had UCF like in the 20s prior to this week. And I mean, you might be right, but I don't think again, it goes back to the general thing that we've been talking about before, Eric, right? You can only control what you can control. And
doesn't matter because if you win out, you'll be ranked and all that, right?
Speaking of what UCF can control, let's look at the conference schedule coming up because, as I told everybody earlier today, UCF volleyball, UCF, by the way, UCF beat FAU today in 3.
Oh, somebody I was worried about. I wondered if we were going to go winless.
The day ended with a win. The day ended with a win. This is the part that UCF can control, all right? And it starts in the real season, everybody. And by the way, I'm talking to you, Michael White and Eric Edwards and Hidden Hawaiian and all you guys out there that are like, we're screwed, all right? We're talking to you. We are not screwed. This is what UCF has to do, okay? It starts right here in conference play. It starts with UConn next week. UConn, who got trounced today by Indiana. And again, these are the games you have to win in front of you. Cincinnati, that is going to be a tough football game. The lights are going to be on. It's going to be a Friday night. Nippert Stadium is going to be.
They've got a better running back than Pittsburgh does. Michael Warren. Luke Fickell is a good
Warren is for real. Yeah.
So
ECU at home, very winnable game. You don't know what you're going to get from Holton Ahlers. You hope it's not his best day. At Temple, Temple's going to be tough. Especially at their place. I know you're kind of shaking your head a little bit on that, Eric, but we know what it's like when you go to Temple, and have to deal with a tough game. I still have PTSD from 2013. I'm sorry, I just do. Houston, don't count out the Houston. It's at home. It's De'Aaron King. All right. Tulsa's showing some signs out west.
That's a short week too, by the way.
Short week.
That's very a short week.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I get worried about. This 6 days and 6 days right here. Okay.
I'm not as concerned about that first one.
By the way, there's a bye after this and a bye after this.
UConn.
Yeah. There's a bye after the Friday games. So UCF gets an extra day off to prepare for ECU. Extra day off after Tulsa to prepare for Tulane. I think that will come not a moment too soon because Tulane scares the ever-living daylights out of me.
I'm telling you, though, you got a Houston team that's explosive. It's talent with King and company, and then a short week to go to Tulsa. Not an easy place to get to. And I'm telling you, Tulsa has improved. They gave Oklahoma State a good game a couple weeks ago. They look improved from last year. That is a tricky game. UCF's never won at Tulsa. It's not an easy place to be there. I'm just
going back to Conference USA too.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then South Florida. Well, it's a Friday, but it's a rivalry game. I know they're struggling, but you just never know in these rivalry games because they will be up to play us. They can make their season if they can ruin ours.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And then, of course, the American Championship against who knows. It's totally wide open at this point. 3:30 p.m. ABC on
fingers
Saturday,
crossed.
November 7th. Yep, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
All right. So as we finish out here on Night Shift. By the way, I want to send a special thanks to all of you guys who were watching with us here. Jessica Sheldon, who was with us last week, one of the OGs, is back. I see this loss as a wake-up call. I'd rather lose early in the season and win the rest of the season than lose later in the season. That's the silver lining.
I agree, Jessica.
That's the silver lining right there. And I think what it does bring up is what we've trying to say before, which is the end of the day, today kind of doesn't matter. What really matters is conference play because that's what you can control.
Well, here's how I would phrase it. The loss is the loss. The question is not the loss, is how do you respond after the loss? Does this team, build from this, learn from this, win out, or do they slip up a couple more times? We don't know the answer to that. That's what are you going to prove that when you're a great program, it's not because you win every game. It's how you respond after a loss. You don't let a loss become a second loss and a third loss.
Right.
That's what I think.
Don't let, what was the old cliche that we heard? Don't let Pitt beat you twice.
Yeah.
Like 3 times.
Like I said, look, I mean, honestly, with all the quarterback questions before the year, I don't know if it wasn't like, oh, we're going to go undefeated every, you know what I mean? A loss was probably going to happen. Yeah. And to the point, it is better that you lose out of conference than you do in conference because you still are going to, you're still going to get criticized regardless of the loss. At least this one does not hurt your conference, and you're still the team to beat in the conference, and you're still playing for a ring, and you could still play for a lot of things. So, yeah,
and that's what UCF has to control. So, as we finish up here on Night Shift here, just some final thoughts. I wanted to leave it up to you guys as we finish up. Jeremy, I guess we'll start with you.
Yeah. I think that today we learned a lot about this team. And I think what we found, I think that today you learn more from a loss than you do for a win. And I think that the team will put more emphasis on what they struggled on today for games that will really matter in the future. I think that UConn is going to I'd like to hope that UConn is going to be a bounce-back game for them. But I think the real test comes October 4th when you head to Nippert Stadium to play the Bearcats. And I think I want to see what they learned from today on October 4th. And if that'll be the true test. And if they can prove that they learned something from today, then I think today there'll be a silver lining for today. If they show exactly what they did again, and they let Pitt beat them twice, like you mentioned, Jeff, then I could see more losses snowballing from here on out. But I think that
Elo? Oh, yeah. Sorry, Jerry.
Go on, Elo. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead. Finish that last point.
I think this is it. It's the conference season now. If that Cincinnati game is the next date I'm circling, if that is how we want them, if they play as how we hope they do, then I think we're going to be okay. But I think if that proves to be somewhat similar to what we saw today, then I think we're going to start to see the snowball, and just it's going to turn badly. but I don't think that we need to panic yet.
Elo?
Are you good, Jeremy? You feel better now? Did you get it out of your system? I was worried about you. That's why I came on. I was really worried about it.
This has been extremely therapeutic for me. I feel a lot better now, an hour 20 later, than I did an hour 20 earlier. So,
well, I'm happy to hear that. That's why we're here. I hope that people that have tuned in or feel better. I know it's a tough day. Just exhale. I have some breaking news. The sun will come out tomorrow. Breaking news. It is going to come out.
Yes.
So you heard it here first.
We'll be all right. We'll all be all right. And
remember this. Okay,
let's 3-1.
Remember that and they're like 26-2 the last 28 games.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
All right. That's a pretty good run. Still a good run. Lots to play for. It hurts. I understand it. It's painful, but the sun will come out, and let's see what happens the rest of the way. We got more games to play, and that's just all I could say about it, really. But I'm eating more crow. I will eat more crow.
I was following some of Brian Murphy's.
Is he okay?
Post-game.
He's okay.
Yeah, Brian's fine. Brian's always fine.
Did he get coffee?
Lots
of disease. And if you get the chance, follow him at _Murphy on Twitter, because he's got some of his post game up there. And he and I think Otis Anderson actually said it best. He posted all of Otis's post game comments, and Otis said, "Look, man, we're pissed. We're pissed." And I think there's, like you said, Jeremy, there's two ways that this can go. You can either get angry about it and channel that anger towards, in the direction of UConn and the rest of the American Athletic Conference, or you can let it beat you. And I don't think this team is going to let it beat them. I think they're too. I think they've been through too much. They have. We have seen adversity. This is where the end of last year, when McKenzie went down, this kind of adversity and dealing with adversity can really galvanize a team. I do think, like you both said, there's a lot of stuff the UCF has to work on. I think Dylan Gabriel still has to work on. We're going to have to deal with him being a freshman. He is a freshman, okay? And I thought today he really looked like 2016 Mackenzie Milton a lot.
That being said, real quick though, I think we all agree though, you still play him out. You don't redshirt him, right? Do we still agree, right?
This is it. The red shirt comes off if you play him one more game. So
that's why I wanted to bring that up, because with UConn.
Yeah,
right?
good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that now that's the cat's out of the bag on that one.
You have to.
You never know. We're going to find out.
I'll say this though: if they do decide to redshirt him, Daryl Mack is going to start against UConn.
That's true.
Yeah.
We'll probably see a hefty helping of Daryl Mack against UConn, just to get him back acclimated. So it should be interesting to see. But the bottom line is, the conference schedule is what you have to handle now. That's your season. You do not get to the group of five bid. You do not get the group of five bid, rather, without winning your conference. Doesn't matter where you're ranked. Excuse me, it's late. But now is when I think also the fan base has to galvanize around the team. And just because UCF is not undefeated right now does not mean that they are defeated. All right. Group of five bowl is still in play, but you got to win the league, and winning the league starts with this week against UConn. So at midnight, like I said earlier in a tweet I had earlier, cry, eat some ice cream, listen to some Death Cab for Cutie, whatever you got to do to get it out of your system. Because at midnight, the focus is on UConn. Because that's what Josh Heupel and the players and the coaching staff are doing. They're trying to fit. The sole thing they're trying to figure out is how to beat UConn next week. And that's the beauty of go 1-0, right? Is can't worry about all the other stuff. You just worry about what's in front of you right now. Just focus on this, and we'll go from there. So that's where I want to leave it for right now. I think we've pretty much covered it, right? So yeah, I want to, again, thanks to everybody who was watching. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Hidden Hawaiian, wherever you might be hiding. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Tony, and everybody out there who's watching. We'll do this again for you next week. Tell your friends. Hopefully, we'll get it done a little earlier. I had UCF volleyball tonight. I was struggling with, do I leave or do I stay in my seat? Of course, I got to go to volleyball. I have no impact on what UCF does. But UCF volleyball got the victory today over FAU, which we're really proud of. A couple things I wanted to remind you guys. Of course, we are always at blackandgoldbanneret.com. We got a lot coming for you. We got Luke Saris's instant reacts. We will post this show up there. We will.
It's really good. It's a good read.
It's a great read. He actually texted me right after the. Usually, I write the instant recaps, and he texted me right after. He's like, "Dude, I need to vent. Can I have this one?" You got it, Luke. So
hang in there, buddy.
Definitely recommend it. And safe travels. He'll be fine. And Brian too. Hit us up at UCF_Banneret on Twitter. As always, we're very active on Twitter. Facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret for also if Facebook's your jam, we're there too. And then of course follow each of us. Jeremy, you can follow at Jeremy Brener. You can follow Eric at Eric Lopez Elo. And you can follow me at Jeff_Sharon. So once again, thanks to everybody for watching. Jeremy, thank you. Eric, thank you. We got 3 in the house. Hopefully, maybe we'll have 4 next week. Who knows? Maybe Luke will be able to join us.
The party.
This is fun, man. I'm glad. I'm glad we do this, and because this is fun. It just gives us a chance to sort of to just decompress after whatever happens. CC asks, "Will there be a replay link?" Yes, there will. As soon as this ends, just stay on it, and it's going to process. It'll be at the same link that you have there. And Eric, you said, "Thank you for doing this." I actually like a few hours after the game, not immediately. I do, but my wife probably doesn't.
That's gonna be tough when 7 o'clock starts in a couple of weeks.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But we're gonna. But the bottom line is, make sure you follow us and and we'll try and get them up for you as quickly as possible. I think we would have gotten up a little bit earlier had I not been at volleyball. But anyway, you can follow us right here at blackandgoldbanneret.com. Follow us, guys. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. This has been Night Shift on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Thanks once again for watching. Hey, the midnight rule. Terry Rooney, who everyone supposedly hated, he actually had one thing. He had the midnight rule. Midnight of a game day, win or lose, tomorrow's over. Or yesterday's over. Tomorrow starts. We focus on the next game. Thanks again. Have a good week. Let's go beat UConn next week. Thanks again, guys.
Good night, Cardon.
Night Shift on blackandgoldbanneret.com.